Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and Japan. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn and via satellite Eutelsat 16A on 11,512 megahertz, vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. Symbol rate 29,950 mega symbols per second, standard DVB-S2, modulation 8 PSK, audio PID 510. We wish you good reception conditions. You are listening to the news on Radio Romania International. I am Vlad Palcu. Let's take a look at the top stories. Over 4 million Romanians have taken the anti-COVID-19 shot. Romania's GDP went up 2.8% in the first quarter of 2021. And CFR Cluj have won the domestic football championship. Over 4 million Romanians have been immunized so far against COVID-19, the country occupying the 7th place at European level with regard to the administration of the complete vaccination scheme. Vaccination is now possible without appointment, so anybody can go to a vaccination center with just an ID. Tens of thousands of people have been immunized in recent days in drive-through systems and in the so-called vaccination marathons held across the country. In other news, the Strategic Communication Group reported 707 new cases of infection with the new coronavirus in 24 hours out of 31,000 tests performed at national level, confirming the downward trend of the pandemic. In 24 hours, 54 patients diagnosed with COVID-19 died. 718 people are in intensive care. 93% of the total number of pupils in Romania, accounting for 2.7 million, returned to physical attendance in classes on Wednesday. The Minister of Education, Sorin Câmpeanu, announced that if the downward trend of the infection rate is confirmed, 200,000 children who still take online classes in 534 localities with an incidence of more than 1 per 1,000 inhabitants will also be able to return to school soon. The minister urges school principals to ensure compliance with the protection measures and rules in place, explaining that if a school cannot provide a differentiated schedule and there are too many children during the break, then they will have to wear a mask. Romania's GDP increased by 2.8% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the fourth quarter of 2020 and remained flat compared to the same quarter last year, according to the National Institute for Statistics. Liberal Prime Minister Florin Câțu has spoken of a historic comeback and promised that the centre-right government will prepare new measures to make the post-pandemic economy stronger and more competitive. In reply, the president of the opposition Social Democratic Party, Marcel Ciolacu, has stated that the only historic thing is the collapse of Romanians' purchasing power. Border police from Peta, SAITAMA County, found a minibus driver who had hidden in a specially arranged place in the luggage compartment 7 citizens from Syria and Bangladesh with the intention of illegally crossing them the border to Hungary. During the preliminary verifications, it was established that the driver from Timișoara, as well as 2 other Romanian passengers in the minibus, were the guides of the 7 foreign citizens aged 20 to 41. The border police are investigating the crime of attempted fraudulent crossing of the state border for the 7 foreign citizens, as well as the crime of trafficking in migrants for the 3 Romanian citizens. The European Parliament on Tuesday agreed to disburse €397.5 million from the EU Solidarity Fund to help 17 member states and 3 candidate countries to cope with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Romania will be allotted €13.9 million from the EU general budget in 2021. An additional €86.7 million will go to Greece and France to help these countries deal with the effects of the natural disasters occurred in the second half of 2020. The Chamber of Deputies in Bucharest on Wednesday adopted the government's bill on implementing 5G networks. The law provides for the use of 5G networks for operating technologies, equipment and software only by certified producers only. Certification is obtained by government order and with the approval of the country's Supreme Defense Council while complying with Romania's commitments to the EU and its strategic partners. A final vote will be cast by the Senate, the decision-making body in this case. And we go out with news from sports. CFR Cluj has won its fourth consecutive title of the Romanian Championship on Tuesday night after defeating FC Botoșani with the score 1-0 away from home. In the ninth stage of the group phase of the First Football League, CFR has thus won its seventh title. CFR Cluj will be Romania's only representative in Champions League. And that has wrapped up the news on Radio Romania International. The authorities estimate that Romania will achieve herd immunity in August. Ana Maria Popescu with more in this report written by Eugen Coroianu. Romania has over 4 million citizens who have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccines approved and used in the European Union. Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. The coordinator of the National Vaccination Campaign, Valery Gheorghiță, said that in August, according to experts, the country will reach a herd immunity threshold of 50% of the people either vaccinated or having recovered from the disease. She emphasized that authorities want to step up the vaccine rollout so as to reach the 5 million target by the end of May, 6 million in July, and 7 million people vaccinated by late August. Valery Gheorghiță added that although current infection figures are good, this positive trend must be consolidated if the country is to avoid a relapse after the gradual lifting of restrictions. As of late, Romania has stepped up its vaccine rollout, with people able to get a jab without needing a prior appointment and with new methods being introduced, such as vaccination marathons in major cities, drive-through vaccination centers, mobile vaccination units traveling to large companies, and vaccination caravans in remote, isolated areas. Immunization by family physicians has also grown substantially. The combined vaccination rate is now around 100,000 jabs per day, with any person able to get one in any center without prior appointment based on ID alone. This simple and efficient method has attracted many of the Romanians living abroad who traveled back to the country for this special purpose. We must bring the vaccine closer to people, President Klaus Iohannis said on Tuesday.
De succesul vaccinării unui număr cât mai mare de români depinde redeschiderea completă a tuturor
The
sectoarelor.
successful vaccination of as many Romanians as possible is the prerequisite for fully reopening all social and economic sectors and for building post-pandemic Romania. Mayors and other local authorities, regardless of their political complexion, must be actively involved in the vaccination campaign. So far, we have been successful mostly in urban communities. This is why it is important to step up the rollout in rural areas because access to vaccines is more difficult here. People must be informed. In smaller localities, local officials should even go from door to door to tell people how important it is to get the vaccine.
The head of state warned that a prospective threat is that as the disease is gradually contained, some people may think the worst is over and that there is no point in getting the vaccine. This is a misguided sense of security. Until a substantial number of us have got the vaccine, the pandemic is not over.